As soon as I finished playing Alan Wake 2, I sat down and started to create a video script. But where to begin? Where do you start writing about a game that is about writing? A story about the story. I immediately hit a roadblock. I needed to get outside, clear my head. Maybe a walk would help me get an idea, give me some inspiration. As soon as I shaped that thought, I was out on the street without remembering to leave my house. I had no choice. I had to start walking. At the very start, you don't play as one of the two protagonists, but a guy who climbs out of Cauldron Lake butt naked and gets killed off soon after. From now on, the story itself is split into two parts which slowly merge throughout the course of the game. On the one hand, there is the story of Saga Anderson, an FBI agent who is sent to Bright Falls to solve a murder case, or to specify, the murder case of the guy we met in the intro. And on the other hand, we have the story of our boy Alan Wake, who's still trapped in the dark place since the events of the first game. But let's do it the way the game does and start with Saga. Her chapters are titled Return, but why that is, I won't spoil. She's accompanied by Alex Casey, played by Sam Lake and voiced by James McCaffrey, which was also done with Max Payne in the first game. And that's probably the right moment to commemorate James McCaffrey, as he died of cancer in December 2023, a few months after Alan Wake 2 was released. His voice was iconic. His melancholic style of speaking with that cynical undertone matched to tragic characters such as Max Payne perfectly. Rest easy, you'll be missed. But let's get back to the game. The guy we played in the intro turns out to be Robert Nightingale, a major character from the first game. Saga examines his body, which is sent to the morgue, and once there, strange occurrences start happening. The sheriff disappears and Nightingale starts moving again. Even before, people seem to recognize Saga, even though she's never been in Bright Falls. And at this point, the real game begins and the horror aspect really starts showing. Saga has to figure out what happened and what that all has to do with the author that disappeared 13 years ago, who later washes up on the shore of Cauldron Lake as well. And we relive what happened to Alan Wake while he was stuck in the dark place. The way the story is presented is very, well, Remedy, which is to say absolutely incredible and mind-boggling. There are small hints scattered everywhere throughout the game, but never enough to really piece together what happened or is going to happen next. There were a few points where the solution was obvious at first glance, but there's always a twist to it that makes up for them. Considering the main selling point of the game, the writers managed to do something that is very tricky and many studios struggle with, namely creating a story about the story. The main protagonist and character the game is named after is an author, who gets sucked into his own creation, so to make it about telling a story and the difficulties that come with it is very obvious. Luckily, they don't fall into the trap of making it too self-referential. It makes sense, and while you might have a lot of question marks in the beginning, it all leads to a very satisfying conclusion, while also leaving room for interpretation. Confusion is part of the recipe, and the revelations sometimes lead to more questions than answers, but you have no choice but to hang on until the end. You will be rewarded. The addition of Saga, who stays in the real world, compared to Alan, who has to face threats similar to the first game, is a good way to build upon the already existing foundation, while it's also tied into the greater Remedyverse now. Oh yes, the Federal Bureau of Control also enters the stage, while known characters like Artie are ever present throughout. I'll be honest, I like connected universes, even though modern franchises tend to overdo it nowadays. But for me, Remedy games have a certain appeal to them, and if they somehow manage to put Max Payne into it, perhaps through the remakes, I'm all for it. Quick side note, as I'm editing this after the Game Awards, Control Resonant looks really amazing. I can't wait to play it. I needed to get back to my writing room. I have procrastinated for too long. Somehow I feel watched, like a shadow following me. But every time I turn around, there is nothing. No one who would act suspiciously. Was I imagining things? Was the guilt slowly getting into my head? What also plays into that appeal is that they obviously had a lot of fun during development. You can see it in the world, which is filled to the brim with detail and small charming moments, be it through notes you can find in the world or NPC dialogue. You can really tell they wanted to make this game for a long time. The influence of Northern European culture is also ever present. The game might take place in a small American town in Washington state, but everything looks and feels Finnish, and I love every aspect of it. A bit sad, however, is that the world only functions as a backdrop. You can't really interact with NPCs except for story dialogue. They also don't react to anything the player does, and sometimes dialogue restarts once you go through doors, which can be a bit annoying. NPCs in general look very dead-eyed and repeat the same animations over and over again while standing rooted on the spot, so it would be best not to look at them too closely. Sir? Are you okay, sir? You've been staring at the screensaver for like 10 minutes.
Mustn't stop typing. Mustn't stop typing.
Voice actors can also be a bit corny at times. Even Alan himself has a few moments where it didn't feel authentic.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Go on. I should be taking notes here. This is great stuff.
Oh man! Oh God! Oh man! Oh God! Oh man! Oh God! Oh man! Oh God! Oh man! Oh God!
Graphics-wise, the game is very nice to look at, and I didn't even have the hardware to play it on the highest level of detail, but it's still one of the best looking games I've ever played. You can also customize just how much detail is shown on surfaces like newspapers or notices, etc. It plays a lot with the theme of light and dark, which is obvious. Reflections that come off enemies have a disorientating effect. And sometimes there were frame drops that came seemingly out of nowhere. A few locations just didn't like my PC and wanted to make it suffer. That is incredibly frustrating during conflict and especially during boss fights. I even had a situation where I wasn't able to do anything besides moving until I got hit, which at the same time led to me dying and having to start the fight all over again. Here I also have to mention that the save point placement is pretty weird. There is a manual one in save rooms, but also automatic save points in some instances. So you sometimes have to watch cutscenes again or have to run through the whole area just to get to the point you died, with no real gameplay value. I get that it's supposed to be punishing and that it should teach the player to always be prepared and vigilant, but in a story-driven game that may just lead to losing the focus and frustration. And, talking about frustration and dying, let's get to my biggest point of criticism that brought me close to quitting the game, but to do that I have to go back a little. Alan Wake 2 is an extremely atmospheric game. In its best moments, the level structure is almost maze-like and paranoia is a constant companion. Behind every corner there could be a single enemy that sends either Alan or Saga to their demise, and shootouts are supposed to be panic-inducing. I don't play a lot of horror games because I cannot stand the tension in general, but when I do, I feel most uncomfortable when single enemies are a huge threat and you never know when the next one might appear. So why does the game have to develop into a pure shooter the closer you get to its ending? Seriously, as soon as the shootouts started piling up, I didn't feel a horror atmosphere at all, and that is pretty damning in a game that holds its tension high apart from that. It's also the reason why I didn't finish playing the first game, it just became too repetitive. Generally, the sound design is impeccable, but the gunplay is not the game's strongest suit. You first gotta chip away the enemy's darkness shields by blasting them with light before you can damage them, and those shields can regenerate. It is challenging, but the more you play, the more it just becomes necessary gameplay element for gameplay element's sake. Consider the incredibly clunky inventory management and you have a pretty poor experience. But that is pretty much the only thing I have to really complain about. The rest of the game is great. What is more fun than shooting is exploring the levels, because at every corner there are little secrets, stashes or puzzles hidden away. Some of them made me feel really stupid, like, I haven't done real math since I left school 10 years ago. What do you mean I gotta create and solve equations? A big portion of the game consists of puzzles, be it for lack of better words, story puzzles during Alan's chapters or investigation during Saga's. They both have their unique way to present progress. With Saga, it's a mind place, a small cabin where you can sort the clues you collected along the way, or profile people. Sometimes I resorted to trial and error because it's not always obvious where a clue should go. Then again, I didn't think too hard about them. It's more a gimmick than a real gameplay innovation. What is extremely well done though is Alan's unique, let's call it, ability. Here too you collect clues, but you subsequently use them at the storyboard to rewrite aspects of the story, opening new, previously closed up ways, which in turn give you more opportunities to check out areas. He's also constantly watched by shadows, and it's not always obvious which ones will attack him. And here I have to criticize a little bit again, because the overall level design has some elements that appear repeatedly and come off a bit cheap. I'm not saying that blown fuses are far-fetched, but how often does that normally happen? That at least offers some explanation why everything is so damn dark all the time. But overall the levels are well designed, the characters are well written and act in a believable way. There are 3 areas, 4 considering the dark place, that open up more and more throughout the game, the more tools you get. Also meaning that there is a lot of running around involved if you want to find and collect everything. In the end it's worth it if you're swimming in ammo, which you'll unfortunately gonna need, or find charms that can ultimately save your butt in tricky situations. When I came home, all the lights in the house were turned off. Strange. Usually my neighbors have people over all the time. I just needed to walk up the stairs, go to my damn apartment, open my notebook and start writing until I have a decent script. It can't be too difficult, can it? So where do we end up with all this? On the one hand, I love Alan Wake 2. The storyline, the mystery, the characters, everything is so well done and probably among the best experience I ever had. But on the other hand, there is the gameplay, which really didn't convince me, and I played the game despite and not because of it. The imbalance between those two aspects, which are basically the core of a video game, really make me struggle to get a decent and satisfying conclusion. I'm definitely gonna take a look at the 2 DLCs, the Lake House and Night Springs, and perhaps I will discuss them in a separate video. But for now, that's it for this video. I hope you liked it and stick around for another one. By now there is a bunch of them on this channel. I entered my room, but there was already someone there. I could feel it. How else could I explain my notebook standing there, open, like it had recently been used? I needed to check what was happening to it. Back to the beginning.